Hi grade 10s, welcome to this pre-lesson activity video tutorial where I'll be providing you with explanations on how to do the pre-lesson activities. The first pre-lesson activity is textbook engagement from Siavula. And I would like you to make a summary after reading the chapter. So in terms of the summary, I would like you to make a concept map. So a concept map includes all the important concepts from the section. So let me start the concept map for you. So reading the introduction, we know that the section deals with static electricity. But what is static electricity? So that should be your next concept. It is when charged particles are transferred from one object to the next. Those two concepts need to be linked with a linking word or linking words. So static electricity is when charged particles are transferred from one object to the next. Now from there you can move on to the fact that there are two types of charges. What are those two types of charges? You see, I'm using the two types of charges as my linking word between the fact that there are negative charges and there are positive charges. And so you can continue your summary like that to show how you understand all the different concepts in this section, how they come together. So this pre-lesson activity is textbook engagement, and you will be using the Siavula textbook and going to chapter 16. So first, when you read through the chapter, you'll be introduced to key concepts. Then it's important to realize that when we deal with electric fields, we are dealing with two kinds of charges, and you have to understand how these charges, how objects become either positively or negatively charged. Then it's important to realize that charge will always be conserved, and then we will quantize charge, and this is based on the fact that electrons are either lost or gained. So we know the charge of the electron, and you can therefore work out the total number of electrons that are transferred from one object to another. In introducing the key concepts, all this part of the book does is it introduces to you what is meant by electrostatics. It's important to realize that when we deal with static electricity, we are dealing with charges that are not in an electric circuit. Okay, then moving on to the next subsection, which is two kinds of charges. So the section dealing with two kinds of charges explains what the two different charges are. So if you think back to the structure of the atom, you should remember that there are protons and there are electrons. Protons are positively charged, electrons are negatively charged. An atom, a neutral atom, has an equal number of protons and electrons. Now, if you remember back to the structure of the atom, remember the protons are in the nucleus along with the third type of subatomic particles, which are neutrons, which have no electrical charge, and the electrons are in the orbitals surrounding the atom. So when an object becomes charged, it becomes charged not because the protons can move, but because an object will either gain or lose electrons. And then the next subsection of this chapter deals with the forces between charges. Now this is very similar to magnets, and the general rule is like charges repel and unlike charges will attract. You can then move on to the section conservation of charge. So in this section, it's very important to understand that when two charged objects are brought into contact with each other, the charge will distribute evenly over those two objects, so that when they separate, each object will have the same charge. And then you can move on to this last section, which is the quantization of charge. And what's important is to remember what the unit of charge is. Remember I said atoms were electrically neutral, or neutral atoms are electrically neutral because they have an equal number of protons and electrons. So both a proton and electron have the same magnitude or size charge. It's just protons are positively charged, electrons are negatively charged. And we are able to quantize charge by knowing what the charge of an electron is. So if you're given the total charge of something, if you divide it by the charge of a single electron, you will be able to work out how many electrons have been transferred to that object or removed from that object if the object is positively charged. So in this pre-lesson activity, you're going to be going through these sections of the textbook, and as you read, I would like you to answer the questions that will follow shortly. So the questions I would like you to answer as you engage with the textbook are the following. What is static electricity? What are the two types of charge? What is meant by net charge? How does an object become negatively charged? How does an object become positively charged? What is meant by the triboelectric charging? Explain what is meant by charge conservation. What happens to the charge when two charged objects touch, then are separated? Describe the forces between charged objects. And finally, what is meant by charge quantization? Remember, once you've answered these questions, make a summary as a concept map. Time to pause the video now and do the first pre-lesson activity. Pre-lesson activity 2 is an interactive simulation. It is a PhET simulation. When you have finished answering the questions related to reading through the textbook and engaging with the textbook, I'd like you to go back to the section on section 16.2, and you will see there is a simulation that I would like you to engage with. So from the textbook, you can click on the simulation and it will take you to the simulation page. It's a PhET simulation, so you just click on play and then you can go and do the simulation. Okay, so on the simulation, I want you to make sure that you click the show all charges so that it shows all the charges. You can see there's a wall. If we have two balloons and now I rub, you can rub the one. If I move it away, you will see the one side of the balloon is negatively charged. The one side of the jersey is now positively charged. Will the balloon be attracted or repulsed away from the jersey? Well, let's have a look. There we go. You can see it has been attracted to the jersey. Just play around with this so you can get an understanding that objects become charged by friction, and you will see that negative charges are a negatively charged object is attracted to a positively charged object. If you bring a negatively charged object close to a neutral object, what happens to the electrons in that neutral object? So grade 10s, it's now time to pause this video and go to the PhET simulation and play around. I hope that you find the PhET simulation enjoyable and interactive. So grade 10s, I hope that you found this pre-lesson video tutorial helpful in guiding you through the two pre-lesson activities. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So this is the Opinionated Science Educator signing off.